Poets in Autumn.
Yeah.
You familiar with them?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Jackie Hill, Ezekiel, all those guys. They're really, really good guys. I think they're doing another tour. I'm not 100% sure what they're doing, but they're doing another tour and they're having conversations on stages, right?
Okay.
And they had a conversation about toxic male podcasts. So let's see what they have to say about that.
Okay.
Rising popularity of misogynistic podcasts and sayings that are being framed as being biblical male headship, and it's presenting male leadership as kind of this domineering kind of like, it's just giving demonic, because it's not framing masculinity or leadership, I think, how the scripture does. And I think it's appealing to men who have really deep insecurities about what it actually means to be a man. And so what would you say to the question, what is biblical male leadership?
Man, I think we've adopted the world's one-dimensional perception of what leadership looks like. And I think it should not be a question in the church. We should not be uncertain about it. Why? Because Jesus modeled biblical leadership. And so we see a man that is consistent in forgiveness, and he initiates in patience. And oh no, he's weak because he's not gangster with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, be honest. You want a gangbanger. You do. You want a gangbanger. But biblical leadership is not that one-dimensional.
You don't have to pray for her. She shook her head.
She was like, yes, and is. Stop it.
You don't want a gangbanger.
Oh my God. Why don't you look for a man that initiates in the fruit of the Spirit? Kindness and humility, and willing to admit that they're wrong first, willing to be corrected first, and subject themselves to the scripture first. Y'all want a man that just tell you, sit down and shut up, and you're like, I don't like you. Oh my gosh.
Being a husband and me being a father, I think my manhood rests solely on me being assertive. Yeah. Me taking initiative. Jesus took initiative and traveled all the way to Bethany. He's being a great leader. But also being a leader means stopping and being vulnerable with the people that you're leading. Wow. And so what that did for me, it challenged me that when my wife or my children, my girls have a problem, God is not just only calling me to try to take all their problems away.
Come on, bro.
First, he's calling me to cry with them first. Wow. This is also ministry. This is also leadership. This, you know what I'm saying? And so for me, I think what Jesus showed me in that passage is that being a leader is balancing this beautiful balance of being both a lion and...
So a couple things here. First, toxic male podcast. So we got to talk about that. But also, a lot of people in our Patreon have been saying, man, we need more talks on leadership, leading as men, the right ways to do it in all different areas, in marriage and friendship and business. However, they've been asking, hey, do more stuff on leadership. So I think this hits both of those things. But first, I want to get your take without getting offended. Toxic male podcast. What do you think about what she said about that? And who do you think she's talking about?
Oh, I mean, there's a couple of them out there that I've listened to. To be honest with you, I feel like there's a lot that we are kind of like, I think, getting mixed up with, like what they talked about. Men being masculine, men being assertive, men being domineering. And I feel like it's one of those areas where you kind of got to just kind of read the temperature of the relationship. I think I struggle with that as well, because I'm so, my daughters, man, they floor me. They can get anything they want out of me, and I'm just like, what else am I supposed to do? They're crying, So, I mean, I don't know if it goes back that far to, relationships being with your children versus your significant other, but I don't know. It's scary. I don't know if I'm necessarily feeling like they're trying to like assert biblical principle with it. I think that's just a role that we've been seeing from men for forever. I mean, my father was very masculine. Yeah. My father was very masculine.
He was.
And so I want to be I feel like I'm the same way, but in our new generation, I don't feel like that's what I'm known for or known as.
Yeah, but because you're also very sensitive. Like you're sensitive to how people feel.
Yeah. Definitely.
Big
Definitely.
time. So what's really being said here is that there is a wave of like men-focused podcasts emerging, where the guys are basically like, "Oh, I'm sick of." Bowing down to women and women, feminism is ruining everything and we got to stand up for ourselves and this and that. There's a lot of them coming out. I think that's what she must be talking about. Not us.
Yeah.
But, you know what I'm saying? But like, just that I've been feeling it more and more. This pent up frustration.
Yeah.
Where guys are being like, I'm supposed to be the head of my household. I'm supposed to get what I want. I'm supposed to da-da-da. And, where the Bible doesn't say at all that a man is supposed to lead his family that way. So how do you see, what does the Bible say about leading a family as a man? Are you supposed to be like, where's my piece of chicken? Where's my seat? That's what I'm hearing from guys. Is like, that's what they expect out of marriage.
What's your thoughts?
Well, I think, first and foremost, thank you for having me. But I think a lot of it could come from sound bites. Like a lot of people just little clickbaits, and that's all they're hearing. A lot of that, you got those Kevin Samuels, the Derek Jackson, all those. So people listen to the sound bite and they're like, that's all that they hear and know. But also, we don't know the training. Like where people are just talking without any training. Yeah. People are talking from their experiences. Also, sometimes men haven't had the opportunity to speak. And without proper communication training, you're just going to say whatever. You're going to vomit it, and then it's going to come out. Like, you may have good intention, but the way it was presented and the way all that. So I think all that has to do with it, and it's fairly new. So there's some polishing that has to do with a lot. But I also think that there's biblical, there's secular, and there's carnal. Some people are just straight carnal. Some people might be secular, and those you guys are like more biblical based. So.
So, but what's the appeal? Like, it's like so many of them. What's the appeal? What are people getting out of listening to Kevin Samuels and getting out of these podcasts where guys are just kind of like venting their frustration with women? Like, what is the? There must be something going on where guys are flocking to it.
One of the things I see that's very it's very common on TikTok and Reels is men doing the prank with the gold diggers. You know what I'm saying? Like, they pull up in an okay car, and then they try to holler at a girl, and the girl is like, "Get away from me," or whatever, and then turn around and see them get into the Lambo and was like, "Wait a minute, what did you say your name was again?" So, and I think that always sparks, some type of anger from a male community. Like, man, she's gonna curve me if I don't have this and I don't have that. So I think that's one of the things I definitely see.
You think it's guys that are passed over, that are frustrated?
I mean, just to be honest with you, we were a milder version of that.
We were
a milder version of that because, and it's funny too. And I don't want to say this, out of turn, but it's funny because back in the day, Christian men weren't being sought after. We weren't popular. Now all of a sudden you've got a church full of women, and they're bringing in people to talk about how to find a Christian man and things like that. So it's interesting that those tables have flipped, because we were and when we first started, we were in the basement, venting.
Listen,
you know what I'm saying?
The second basement.
But were we complaining about? Okay, yes, we were.
Yeah,
but what were we
Mm-hmm.
saying? Were we?
I mean, we were basically saying
we
the biggest issue is that we date these girls who feel like we're we're bland.
We're boring.
Yeah, we're boring.
We're too safe.
Right.
Not aggressive enough.
Yeah.
This is okay. For a lot of guys, I can't excuse.
Sex before marriage was a big one too.
Yeah. We got to go through this because if you want to see the villain origin story, this is how it starts. But yeah, so if you go back, we used to get a lot of flack from our sisters in Christ, because we would complain about things because we were frustrated that we were trying to live life for God, Oh man, this is a whole nother topic.
It's a whole nother
Save
topic.
this, the good guy syndrome, because women hate that too.
Yeah.
But we were trying to live our lives for God, right? Doing our best, staying pure, respectful, all that kind of stuff. And women told us to our face, you must be gay, or you must be, you're not exciting, or stuff like that. And it was just like that does leave a scar on guys' hearts to where they're like, oh, I guess I need to be such and such. I actually heard Tupac say the same thing. There was a documentary footage of him saying, he was a nice guy, he was this and that, but girls told him he wasn't this and that. So he started changing to match what they wanted. I think a lot of guys go through that experience where you see the thug, you see the athlete, they getting everything they want as far as attention. So you're like, I guess I got to be like that. And then it's a cycle. So that is kind of the kernel of where I think that starts. But it's kind of grown now into where there's just this community of guys that are hurt, frustrated, and they kind of want their power back in their minds. Like, we got to take our power back from these feminist overlords. You know what I mean? That's how they talk. So, okay, so even though the wound may be real, how do you resolve that so you don't turn into one of these dudes?
Well, another thing I'm seeing with these podcasts, and what I think is happening as well, is that you've got a great number of women that are successful.
Yes.
They're successful. And they're, the idea of, you finding a wife and her staying home and taking care of kids is out the door. That's done, and then it's just, you see them come home and you see them balance family and career.
Yeah.
So you kind of, I think in some way they could be a little jealous.
The guys?
The guys could be a little jealous because women are now exerting these superpowers. Super mom, super wife, super executive, you know what I mean? And so you're kind of like sitting back trying to think about like, wow, where do I come in at? Where do I fit in at in this situation? And Jeremiah's Entertainment Report talks about this as well, where he and I watched a clip, and I got something totally different than what Jeremiah got from it.
Talking about Tyler Perry?
Tyler Perry.
Okay, we'll talk about it.
Yeah. I felt like he was advocating for the bus driver, right? Situation where...
we'll talk about it later, but yeah, Tyler Perry has a clip. We'll talk about it.
And so I feel like that's okay. That's okay. But where we are right now with this toxic male, podcast thing is, I think it's the thing about podcasts is that they are unfiltered and uninspired books, right? A podcast is a book now. Yeah. And so you might be reading a book that's just completely not for you. And
but even
going left.
But there's just such fervor for it. Like, there's so many guys that you would feel like you agree with completely, but they just gravitate to these things. And what's unfortunate is that I think the guys that are doing it, they saw how successful Kevin Samuels was with that kind of like harsh, keeping it real. I'm gonna just tell you what it is. You a 6, you a 2, that kind of attitude. And they've duplicated it. And they saw how successful it was, where not just men enjoyed it, but it seemed like a lot of women enjoy being talked to like that.
That is the weirdest thing to me.
So I think they saw an opportunity, they capitalized. And now there's so many duplicates of his attitude all throughout the world. Yeah. Or you get the opposite, where you get the Jacksons who try to do the opposite and appeal to women and be like, no, you're loved, you're beautiful, I'll do whatever you want, And it's like you're taking advantage of them too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you're trying to slide.
You're just trying to appeal to them, and it's not honest.
But even with Kevin Samuels, he started off talking to men only, building them up and all these different things.
It didn't work.
And then it didn't work. So he had to be the jerks, and that caused more attraction.
Yeah.
And typically in this world, it's, those entertainment conversation will bring more viewers. And
what surprised me about Kevin Samuels was the amount of people, and maybe this is, I know he did a lot of it live, but the amount of people that accepted what he said.
Yeah.
Like the women were
wanted
like
to hear it. Yeah.
So I'm not a 8. He's like, nah, baby girl, you're a 2. You're
a lot of them.
And he was there.
A lot of them disagreed. A lot of them fought, but they still presented themselves to be judged. It's like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
And you had to pay to get on the live.
You did?
You had to pay. He wasn't just picking on anybody. You had to pay him.
Wow.
And then
people were paying to get roasted. Wow.
Paying.
That's crazy.
Consultation.
So like you said, okay, if it's lucrative and all these podcasts, like the Fresh and Fit guys who kind of just got canceled, they lost their monetization on YouTube. But they were another group of guys that were like real toxic, like telling guys this is how it needs to be. Women need to be like this and that, and it works. It works. So how do you combat that when it works? You know, like you said, Kevin Samuels started encouraging guys and challenging guys to be better, right? Which was logical for what his brand is, but nobody cared.
Well,
so the question is, we're trying to do that, but if nobody cares, then people are tempted into doing the other thing.
Unfortunately, that works in a single lifestyle. It doesn't work in a married lifestyle.
Yeah, you mean the domineering man doesn't work when you actually get married?
No, when you get married,
it does not. It doesn't.
So if you're a single man, then I mean that works. I mean that's what women unfortunately like.
You don't actually have to deal with the consequences.
Right,
exactly. You just move on to another one.
Yeah,
but I also think that to get it in Galatians 6, it's talk about don't be weary in doing good. Like if we're doing good, try not to be weary, just to appease to the road that is wide versus the road that is narrow. So it's not meant for everyone to walk. I mean, it is, but not everyone's going to be able to walk that narrow walk. And if we keep attracting ourselves to the wide that is on the road that is wide, you're going to fall off eventually. But that's what it talks about being a believer. Like it's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah,
it's not.
Yeah. So what are we? If we're saying that the toxic masculine podcasts and guys who give advice are wrong, so what we're saying, what is the right answer? What is it? What Preston and Ezekiel were saying is that real leadership, real male leadership is forgiveness, is patience, is crying with your family members, is more of a gentle touch than I'm the boss, I'm the man, give me what I'm worth.
So let me tell you what I think is happening here. I think that this is a lot like music, right? People are ingesting what they hear, and it's because they have a hard time finding their own self-identity / self-worth. And so when you're talking to someone and you're telling them how to feel, how to think, and how to believe, well, that's what hip-hop culture's kind of always been about.
It gives you a blueprint on how to be successful.
You have a blueprint of how to think, how to feel. And the issue is the same thing that we're presenting. It's the same thing. It's the same way we present Christian hip hop. The world doesn't want that because it has a message to it, right?
Yeah.
So the same way they don't want to hear us talk about what a real man is because it has a message to it.
Yeah.
It means you have to change in a way. You have to change what you're thinking, change what you're doing in order to come up to this level.
But if it's modeling success, I just have a question. How many of these guys that you guys listen to are successfully, happily married? Was Kevin Samuels married?
No.
Fresh and Fit guys married?
I don't know.
Like, we're married.
Yeah.
Listen to us. We know what we're talking about. These guys have no idea. They're still out there in the world living crazy.
Yeah.
This is not what they're saying it is.
Yeah.
You can be a man, leader of the household, and not act like a complete jerk. You can be that.
For sure.
And your wife can love you and respect you without you being like, sit down, shut up, go.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to be that way.
The funny joke is you guys all thought that was me because that's kind of how I presented as a single man.
We all thought that you were what?
That's how you all thought I
That
was.
misogynistic.
Yeah.
Guy.
But that's because I told you all stories about my dad. Like my dad was a race car driver. My dad was my coach in baseball and stuff like that. Like he just taught me all these masculine things that he wanted me to say and do. But then you guys were thinking like, oh, that's how you're going to be. And then when you get married,
nobody thought that.
Y'all did.
You have some things that are like you like certain programs. So I'm like, okay, Ryan's wife better be cool with you wanting to watch certain things. You don't compromise.
Yeah.
So it's like those kind of things. But I never thought you would be like what we're talking about.
Well, no,
like
not talk to the point. But it's funny because you get these softeners. Having daughters softens you.
Yeah.
Because you're at the point where you have to make like. You got to show emotion now because they're looking for daddy.
To yourself.
Oh my God! Well, that's
you have to die
is.
to yourself. Like you could go in, you could go in with this attitude of I'm the boss, I'm the man, I'm the head of the household. But man, you'll be set right real fast.
Let me give you a quick example of how we caved. Right, I took my kids to the store because one of my daughters got good grades. So when you do one for one daughter, you got to do it for all. So I took them to the dollar store. Like, it's the only little thing we do. And one of my daughters, I left my wallet at home. So I was like, I'll go home, get my wallet, come back. I'm not bringing you all back because this is a chore, right? Going to the dollar store, then y'all pick stuff out. So I put everything at the front. By the time I got back, they had already put the stuff back. So I had to remember by memory what they had, right? So this was last Friday. So between last Friday, my daughter was crying about one of the gifts she didn't get, one of the toys she didn't get, right? Between last Friday and Saturday's show, my wife and I both went back to that store looking for that doll.
Wow.
So when I called my wife to try to see if my oldest daughter could tell me what it was, and she wasn't picking up. So I just left the store. And I got home, and my wife was like, oh, we were just at that store. So we were just trying to appease the youngest because she was crying for 2 nights or for the whole night. But that was me softening up because I was like, I'm not buying anything else to Christmas. Don't ask me no more.
Yeah.
You know? But then I was like, no, she wanted this. She saw it in the store.
Yeah.
She said, had her eye on it. Her mind is on it. Because she asked me 3 times Friday night after the store was closed, Daddy, are we going back to get my doll? Daddy?
You think that's how God treats us? Like, you sound like the parable of like,
pretty
God,
much.
If God will do this for, it sounds just like that.
So, but we ended up softening and caving to let her get this doll because it was all on my mind. I was leaving the show last week and I was like, I'm stopping by that store to get that doll. I'm not going home and having that conversation.
So real quick before we end, Eagles to the Grave said, you're married before 2010, right? Way different ball game, fellas.
We weren't married before 2010.
We weren't married before 2010, but close. It's not like he's way off, right?
11. I mean,
he's not way off. But what they're saying is, things are different now, and we just don't get it.
Yeah, the game.
Are we out the game? Like, we just don't get it?
I think the only is Eagles to the Grave single.
I guess that's
because my thing is this. I think we're out of the game, but
it's a lot worse out here.
What is it for women though? Are the women worse?
I don't want to speak for it.
Okay, so
I can assume a lot.
I'll tell you this: I've been watching a lot of the Harley initiated guys ever since D1 went on, right?
Yes, your favorite podcast.
And I was listening to. I told you guys about these 2 young ladies that were on there, social media influencers, and they were trying to talk about how they not so much trick guys, but give them tests. If you're giving me a test, we got a problem.
So So that's what I'm assuming they're saying. Eagles to the Grave is that women and men are different. I'm assuming women are different out here right now, and it's a lot more difficult. Y'all tell me what you mean by that, and we'll address it on the show. But okay, yes, we've been out the game for a while. So you have to explain to us what's so different. What do we not get? And we'll talk about it on here. All right? Let's get back into it. You in the field with the Track Stars, Ryan Righteous, Sean Tanner, DJ Jeremiah. Let's go. Hey.